All right, now I'm on. Okay, zoning issues. Like I said, if you buy a piece of property on the corner and you want to build something, you have to make sure it's zoned for it. You can't build bars or nightclubs close to schools or churches. There's rules about that. People don't necessarily, if you're in a residential neighborhood, you don't want a gas station right in the middle of the block, so there's probably zoning about that. So you have to go to those authorities and look it up. The zoning regulations for our county are online, so we just download them. Has everybody seen this? And it's okay? Nobody wasn't on here that's in here? Okay, good. So that's what zoning regulations are. And they'll also tell you, how far you have to be from the building, et cetera, from the street line. You have to have right-of-ways, because usually within like 10 or 15 feet of the curb, there's utilities running underground, or it may be in the back, like in an alleyway, and you can't build on top of those, or else if something happens, they can't get to them to fix it. Building codes are what regulate the design of the building itself. Just like it says here, you have to deal with fire safety, emergency egress, construction quality, structural integrity, durability, and livability. All of that is within the building code, and I don't know if we have one here. We need to get one if we don't have one. But in Corpus, we use the IBC 2009 version. I don't see one here. I have one at home, so I'll probably bring it up here, but until we can buy one. But basically, it's about that thick, and it's lovely reading. But it's divided up into sections, and I think there's some sections in the slides that you may have seen that, and we're going to do a little exercise on it, so you can understand how to look through things. More issues that the building code covers. It talks about the IBC, that's what we use here, and the IRC. They're all made by the same people. They have a monopoly. So, one thing you need to know, basic information on your building, is the activity within it. And as it says here, A is for assembly. This building has a lot of assembly spaces. It's not educational because it's higher education. It would be educational if it was 12th grade and under, but it's just an assembly building because we're mostly adults and we just assemble. Business, obviously, is business building. This building also has part business in it. Factory is obvious. High hazard would be, some place where they store flammables or they work with flammables. A welding factory is probably, or a welding plant is probably a high hazard thing. You have to build accordingly. Institutional is jails or mental hospitals or stuff like that. Mercantile is stores, residential storage, and utility. So those are the different buildings. And it talks a little bit about those. You can read that on your own. Then you get into construction types, which you have to choose what type of construction, and that is based on the size of the building, whether you're going to have sprinklers in it. Sprinklers let you have a bigger building because it's all about getting out in case of a fire. And if the sprinklers start, then you have a longer time to get out, so you can have a bigger building. Most resistant to fire is type 1, least resistant is type 5. Most commercial type buildings are type 2 construction, which is like steel studs and gypsum wallboard, I believe. Yep, non-combustible materials, steel, concrete, masonry. Type 3 might have wood 2x4 wood studs in your partitions. Type 5 is fully non-combustible. And that's how long the frame resistance. The type 1 has to stay standing for 2 to 3 hours. Has to give you 2 to 3 hours before the whole thing's collapsed. Type 2, you got 1 hour, but with sprinklers it would be longer. Type 3 is 0 to 1 hours. 4 is heavy timber, which is fire resistant. We'll learn about that later. And type 5 is 0 to 1 hour. Here's some of the, talks about the different fire resistance. You can study that, and I think we might have to look at it when we do our exercise. And based on your usage of the building is how high it can be and how big it can be. And it varies. If you're going to spend the money to put sprinklers in your building, you can have a taller, bigger building. See what they're saying here is a type A1, assembly 1, construction type 2B can be 55 feet tall because it's type, there's the type 2B, and it's in the A1 group, so it can be 55 feet tall. It can be 2 stories, no more than 2 stories tall, and it can have 8,500 square feet per floor. So that's a common table that we use a lot of. Just talks more about that stuff. Well, just read. Y'all can read that on your own. Make sure I don't miss anything. We talk about specifications, or specs for short, a lot, and that's the. Did I tell this class about how thick specs are? I forget. Well, basically, specifications are like the Bible that go with your drawings. They're a legal document issued by the architects and the engineers, and they cover everything in written format as required. So there'll be a specification on gypsum wallboard, and it'll say it has to be 5/8 inch thick type X because that's fire resistive, and it can only be made by these manufacturers. So the contractor looks that up, and then he knows he can only go to these places to get his gypsum wallboard. And there'll be specifications for these countertops. And all of this is divided into sections, and I think it shows that. Yep, right there. So you've got all these divisions, and within that you have all the different elements of your building. Division 0 is the legal documents, contracts, and how they're going to go about bidding and stuff like that. General requirements is stuff that happens at every construction site. You know, they have to have an office, they have to have their own porta potty, they have to fence off the area, stuff like that. Existing conditions, if you're working on a remodel, you'll use that section to talk about whether you're doing demolition, how you're going to demolish things, whether you're going to try to salvage something or demolish it. Then concrete, it's kind of in order of stuff. Concrete is next because that's usually your foundation work. And anything brick related will be under masonry and so forth. You can read all that. The gypboard I was talking about would be under Division 9 in finishes. Specialties would be things like, you know, this smart board would be a specialty item because that's unusual. If you're speccing furniture, all these tables would be in Division 12. So if you notice, if and when you get your book, well, you will get your book, but at the end of each chapter, it tells you what divisions the stuff you studied was in. And at the end of chapter 1, it there's usually a portion on that. Yeah, on page 26. It has a little chart of everything you talked about and where you would find that information if you were specifying it. So that's what all that means, and you should be able to understand. Like I said, you don't memorize it, but you need to know. I'm studying brick, so that would be in Division 4, something like that. Okay. And then the divisions are further broken down like this. You have Division 5, which is metals. Part 10 of that would be steel framing. Part 21 would be steel joist framing, and so forth. There's a zillion of those. But that just keeps it organized. And they even have programs now where, you know, it builds it for you and makes all that legal mumbo jumbo. There's other, I could say in here, there's other ways to do it, but the most common way is the CSI format. That's what most architects in the United States use. So the contractor is the construction professional. He's the one that builds it, obviously. The design team is usually consists of architects, engineers, and other consultants. The construction team, general contractor, and his subcontractors and suppliers. The general contractor is kind of like the architect of the design team. He organizes and hires subcontractors because you can't possibly keep all the specialties you need on staff. You can't have an electrician, a plumber, a concrete pourer, a framer, and all those people. Sometimes if they do a lot of a certain thing, they may have someone like that, but in general they have to sub it out. But they have ones they usually use and they're very familiar with. And then you got the owner who finances it and has a lot to say about it. So there's different ways that you can organize this. The most traditional way is like this. In the past, the owner would usually go and hire an architect. Architect would hire the engineers, kind of shown here in these little sub-consultants. They would create the design and create all the construction documents. Then it would go out to bid. And the architect usually, in the old days, it's not that necessarily that way anymore, although some still do it. Then the architect would help the owner put it out to bid, select a general contractor, not necessarily the cheapest, it's the best value, and they have all kinds of parameters they use to choose it. But price is a big factor, of course, but then you want to make sure you're going to get something that's worthy. And then the architect would work through construction with the general contractor and usually have meetings once a week or something, go out, visit the site, and approve all the shop drawings and things like that. So design, bid, build is the most traditional way. And this just gives you more detail about that. Design build usually is where the architect and the general contractor are in the same company. And that's becoming more and more popular because it's all in-house. It saves, if the architect always works with that general contractor or vice versa, they know each other's business and they are a little bit more efficient. The bad part about that is there's no checks and balances as much because they're so familiar with each other and they of course want to give each other all the business. So they're just more likely to say, yeah, that's fine, or when there might be a better way. So it gives you a little, usually you can produce the product faster in that way. Construction management is another way where the owner hires an independent person, a construction manager, to oversee the whole thing from start to finish. And he'll oversee the architect and all the subcontractors, and then he'll oversee the construction and do the bidding and stuff like that. So he or she, it could be a she. Let's see. Within that, you've got CM at risk, which means construction management at risk. The construction manager will give the owner a flat fee, $100,000 to do this. And so then it's the construction manager's benefit to make it as efficient as possible, and he gets whatever's left over. If it only costs $75,000, he'll get $25,000. So that can be good and bad. You want it to be efficient, and the owner knows what he's spending. So fixed fee, the owner pays an agreed fixed fee, like the construction manager's fee would be $20,000 to manage the whole thing, but then the owner pays whatever it's going to cost to build it. So if it goes over, the owner goes over. The other way, construction manager at risk, if it goes over, it comes out of the construction manager's pocket. The owner never pays more than what the original, unless they come to a new agreement. So.
That was the case, and how would they be making any money?
Right. So they're experienced bidders. They know how to do it, but it's just, I mean, if you want to try to get in the door with somebody, you might give them a lowball bid, and then maybe later you'll get a job that's profitable, you'd hope. but,
I guess you gotta spend money to make money.
yeah, sometimes, especially in the beginning when you're trying to get known or something like that, you know. Cost plus a fee. That, I already said about that. Let's see. Y'all can read all that. It's in the PowerPoint. Different ways to schedule your project. Sequential construction. Each major phase begins only after preceding phase is complete. So you can't do B before you do A. That's a more traditional kind of way to do it. As you can see on the top part of this chart, it shows that, you know, you got this, and then you'll start that, and then you'll start that. If you have phase construction, you can overlap different things, and you save a little bit of time. There was another one, talks more about that. The Gantt chart is something that's commonly used in construction scheduling. Are you, any of y'all in that class? Construction scheduling? I don't teach it, but I'm not. They'll go over all of this in detail, but the Gantt chart is a way that is a common way that they use to record what's going on and predict the time. Critical path method is interesting because you can do, you know, you start at number 1, and as soon as you finish, at the same time you start number 1, you can go to 4. In 4, you can keep marching on down here, but when you're done with 5, you can also do 13. When you're done with 2, you can jump over here to 3. So it's a way to mix it all up. You have to do certain things in order, but you can also jump ahead and do something, and it squeezes the time down in the end. But that's a pretty, you have to have a good scheduler to know how to do that. This talks about the general contractor, what they do. I don't need to read that to you. Okay, that's the end of that. Now what I want to do is, what I like to do is these worksheets, and you can work together on them, and I'll pass them out and we'll read through it. And if we don't finish it, or if you don't finish it in class, then it's due at the beginning of the next class. But if you get done today, you can, sorry, turn it in. I mean, everybody can work together, but you need to fill out your own sheet. Okay, so what this says, before I start, I want to note that I did make one change. If you keep up with me on the Canvas calendar, at first I was going to do a test from chapter 1 to 3, but I changed that. We're just going to have a test on chapter 1 and 2, because I was looking through chapter 2 and it's just like too long. And we have a holiday Monday, so the first test is going to be, let me see, not next Wednesday, because today is the 15th, so then we'll go over chapter 2 next Wednesday. And then the test is going to be on the 27th, and I'm doing that because that's the day I have jury duty. And so y'all don't have to come to school. You can take the test on Canvas, but it still counts as class time. So hopefully I won't get chosen and I'll be back Wednesday. Although I've never been chosen, and it would be fun, but not when you have a lot to do. Anyway, so back to this. Let me see if I can pull this up here. So yeah, okay. Since I'm recording this screen, then I want people to see what I'm saying. In this exercise, you'll become familiar with the important ways in which building codes affect design of buildings. To complete this exercise, you will need to refer to figures 1.3, 1.4, and 1.7 of the textbook, as well as the list of occupancy code groups provided in the accompanying text. Is that in here? Or, oh well, I'll keep reading and we'll see if we need it. You may also find it helpful to review the example application of these building code requirements to the design of a hypothetical commercial building included in the same section. The building code includes many provisions for adjusting building height, area, and fire resistance requirements. For this exercise, apply only the following modifications to the information provided in your text, meaning the textbook, unless otherwise directed otherwise by your instructor. For buildings 2 stories in height, the combined area of both floors may be double, and the allowable area for the floor listed in Table 503 and may be double the allowable area of one floor listed in Table 503 of Figure 1.3. For buildings 3 or more stories in height, the combined area of all floors may be up to 3 times the area for the floor listed in the table. If the building is fully sprinkled, you may also apply the following adjustments. These adjustments may be applied in combination with those previously listed. For a single-story building, the allowable building area may be quadrupled. That means times 4. For a building of 2 or more stories, the allowable height may be increased by 1 story and 20 feet, and the allowable area may be tripled. This probably will make sense once you start in on this. Okay, so let's see. The first one is an old, unsprinkled warehouse of heavy timber construction with exterior walls of masonry brick is being considered for conversion to the drama theater. But the building is 2 stories high, 80 feet by 70 feet in plan, and conforms to the definition of Type 4 heavy timber construction. Theaters are occupancy A1, meaning they're an assembly. So question 1, is this conversion within the height and area limits of the International Building Code? So let's see. Okay, you need to refer to your figure 1.3. I'm going to go through like the first one and then y'all can do the others. So you refer to figure 1.3, IBC table 503 in the text, so we got to find that. 13? Thank you. Is the conversion within the height and area? So it can be, what, 2 stories high? And 11,500 square feet per story. Is that what y'all?
Say that again?
In the table it says occupancy group A1, construction type 4, unsprinkled buildings may be up to 65 feet and 3 stories in height. Occupancy A1, construction type 4, unsprinkled. Oh, 4, I was looking at 5, sorry. Okay, so it can be 3 stories high and 15,000 square feet per floor.
How do you know if it's unsprinkled on the chart?
Well, I think they might have told us. They told us up here in the question.
In the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to dig for your information. So is the conversion of the height, so we're going to have an 80 by, so you multiply 80 times 70 to get, how much?
5,600.
Okay. Yeah. So is that within our limit? I believe so. So the answer would be yes. So then question B, if exterior bearing wall modifications are required, what fire resistance rating must be maintained? Ignore the influence of any adjacent buildings. So that, if exterior bearing wall modifications are required, what fire resistance rating must be maintained? Ignore any, okay. So this one you see IBC table 601 figure 1.4, which is on the next page. The lower table, table 602, does not apply. So what do we need? If the exterior bearing wall modifications are required, what fire resistance rating must be maintained? So we got type 4. What do you think it has to be? No. 2. It's on the very, see on the left it says building element, building walls, exterior. And you go over to type 4. And HT, height, or heavy timber I mean, is 2. So y'all work for a few minutes together and see if you can figure out the rest of those. And then in a few minutes, I will come. Okay. Pause recording. All right. Trying to use a starboard, so bear with me because that records what I'm doing for the online class. But it doesn't do my handwriting very well. So we already answered number 1. And then, so number 2, what did anybody get there? What? 2 out? You mean B or 2?
That was for 1B.
Yeah, I meant question number 2. We already answered number 1 in the beginning.
For 2A, it's 50 feet.
For 2A, it's 50 feet. Does everybody agree with that?
I do.
Okay. See if I can write that on here. 50 feet. Okay. And then what about part B?
11,500 feet.
If built to its maximum, I can't read that very well, permitted height, what is the maximum allowable area for all floors combined? What did you say? Sorry.
11,500 feet. Is that right?
Table, I don't think so. Let's see. Did somebody else get anything different? What did anybody else get? What'd you get?
18,000.
No, that's not right either. It can be 3 stories tall. That was part of
So we have to multiply by 3.
yeah.
11 times 11 times 11 times 100. Is that the deal?
So the question was, I can't read that one. I have to read this one.
What's the maximum permitted height for all floors combined? 34,500?
I'm sorry. Trying to. Number 2A. A client has asked you to design clothing store protected platform frame type 5A wood construction. The building will not be sprinkled. How tall can this building be? 50 feet or 3 stories? That's correct. Okay, if built to its maximum permitted height, which is 3 stories or 50 feet, what is the maximum allowable area for the floors combined? What?
42,000.
That's right. And how did you get it?
I went to Mercantile and I got the total area of the floor, which is 14,000, and then multiplied it by 3 stories.
You went to, what page are you on?
I guess it'd be, I don't know what page it is, I'm on the online one.
Oh, okay.
What table is it?
601?
It's the one with the first table. Yes, the first one.
Oh, you went to Mercantile. I see what you did. Okay, type 5, yes. 14,000, 3 stories, and you said 42,000, right? So that's correct.
How did we get that again?
He went, because it says we have type 5A construction, so I'm on page 13.
Right.
Type 5 is the furthest to the right, and A is the second to the last.
Right.
Then you go down to type M, which is Mercantile.
Which is 3 at 40,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
What did you do?
You,
Multiply it by 3.
14,000 times
How many
3.
floors there are? Each floor is the square footage.
I get it.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so is that all? Okay, the third part of that question, what is the required fire resistance rating for the components of the structural frame? That's in table 601. Anybody get it?
1 hour.
It should be 1 hour, but let's see how we did it. How did you do it? Tell me.
Get down to your building type,
Mm-hmm.
which was 5.
Right.
So then you go to A and then down to
It's the next.
structural frame. Is it?
The first one?
Yeah. It's the first one's on the top, so it'd be type 5 and A, and then it'd be 1 hour.
Primary structural frame, type 5A1.
Right. So everybody see that? He goes, we're on table 601. You got type 5 on the right, type A. Primary structural frame has have a fire rating of 1 hour. So I'm going to write that on here. Okay. So the next question is number 3. What is the maximum height for a reinforced concrete office tower of type 1A construction?
Unlimited.
Correct. And you got that because
We're smart.
UL means unlimited.
No, we need to round up for it.
So, okay. Unlimited. Need to make that bigger next time. B. What is the fire resistance required for floor beams?
You mean for the column?
I think it's A.
Yeah.
Oh, I did? Sorry. Yes, I did. What is the fire resistance rating for columns?
3?
It's 3. And tell me how you got it.
Well,
You guessed? No.
I just guessed. Type 1A, right?
Is that what it said? Yes. 1A.
And I figured the columns were part of the structure, bearing,
Correct.
so yeah.
Okay, so that, everybody understand that? Yell if you don't, because, and this will be, if you ever need to review this is mostly for the online, but I do post it on our Canvas site too, so. All right, now I'm on B. What fire resistance is required for floor beams?
2,
2, and why did you say that?
because the chart told me.
So you're on floor construction, it says.
Yeah, floor construction.
It says 2 hours. That's on chart 601. 2 hours. And C, why do you think the answers in A and B differ?
Because the column has to withstand more heat,
More heat, is that what you said?
more fire, more flame resistant.
Well, that's probably true, but also, what happens if the column fails?
Or the whole building. That's what I meant. They have
Yeah,
to withstand
okay.
more so that so it won't fall.
Right, so if the column holds up the floor, so therefore the column's more important.
Right.
So I'm just going to write columns are better than floors. Or greater than floors, okay?
Because columns rock.
Okay. Okay, now we're on, oh, there's a D, okay. A large concert hall is to be housed in the same structure. Assuming the 2 occupancies abut side by side, what fire resistance rating is required for a firewall separating the 2 occupancies so that each may be treated as a separate building from the code standpoint? Trick question. Anybody get it?
So one.
You put 1? Nope.
I put a sad face.
You got to go to a different table. It's table 706 on figure 1.7. That's on page 16. So if you look at that table, you have different occupancies. You'd have the type A and you have the type B, which is what we're dealing with. And it says the firewall resistance ratings between those two has to be a 3. Does everybody see that?
Wait, what?
Okay, they gave us, well, you heard the question, right?
They gave us the group.
They gave us the group, so you're looking at
A.
figure Group A and Group B, and figure 1.7, which is table 706, called firewall resistive ratings. So the difference, to separate an A and a B, you need a 3-hour wall. Right?
Well, one's 3A and one's just a 3. What's the difference in that table?
Oh, it's 1.7.
In which table?
Table 706.4, figure 1.7.
Yeah.
One, like,
Oh, I see. Well, that's a little subtext.
right.
A type
I didn't know.
For A in type 2 or 5 constructions, walls shall be permitted to have a 2-hour fire resist. So that's an exception.
Okay,
So,
that's what that means.
yes. All right, now we're on to number 4. You have decided to use a steel frame construction type 1 or 2 for new 5-story hotel. Occupancy group rating R1 with 41,500 square feet per floor. The building will be fully sprinkled. So question A, what is the least expensive, lowest fire rated construction type you are permitted to use? I got my pages mixed up here. 1, 2, 3.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 3A.
You're gonna what?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 3A.
3A. Nope.
Nope. Alright.
Anybody else want to guess?
2B,
What?
type 2B,
Nope.
1B,
Combine what y'all just said.
3B.
Nope.
No.
no. No. He said what? What did you say?
4B?
No. What did you say first? 1A.
1A? Yeah.
And you said what?
You said
2B. It's 2A.
it's 2A.
So this is the exception?
Well, how do you figure that out?
Okay, let's see. What is the least expensive? Okay, you have decided to use a steel frame construction type 1 or 2. And then for a new 5-story hotel, occupancy R1. So that would be R1 with 41,500 square feet per floor. To a let's see. You have to modify some of the, or you have to follow the instructions for modifying allowable heights and areas it gave you at the beginning of the worksheet. Areas for increase in sprinklers are calculated. This is kind of a complicated question. First, you find the combined area for all the floors for the proposed building, which is 5 times 41,500. You got that by looking at the rules at the beginning of the questions. Equals 207,000. Next, you test the possible construction types for this area. As explained in the text, construction types with lower fire resistance are generally less expensive than those with greater levels of protection. So you want the most economic construction is the least amount of fire resistance. So you don't necessarily want to build a Cadillac when you only need a Ford. So you just take all that, sort of form a matrix, and you put all that together. You had to probably have an hour to do that one, so I won't count it against you. But the answer was 2A.
For 4A is 2A.
Yes. So I don't know if we have time to. Let me see what. Anybody do any other questions? Or is that about as far as you got? That's as far as you got?
We didn't.
What did you get on the others?
5 stories, 75 feet, but it's different now.
It should be 85 feet. Okay, but the answer is 5 stories, 85 feet. So that's right. Okay. Can't really read what I wrote there, but. Okay, and C, did you do that one? Anybody do 4C?
They're all one.
They're all 1, that's correct. C, the answers are all 1 hour. And D, anybody do D? No, correct.
What?
No. And anybody get to number 5?
We got 3 stories and 60 feet.
Excellent. Everybody agree with him? Why not?
No, I didn't say no.
No, I said why. I didn't hear you. I said,
Okay.
like, why not? Why wouldn't you agree? Because I said excellent. Okay. Is that all? Is that the end of it? Keep losing my place. Where's my paper? There it is. Okay.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. All right. So, for these types of things, usually we do them in class. So, what I'll do right now, if you want to keep it for your reference, I'll just come by and make sure you did it. And then that'll be a great, it's like pass fail. I don't really look at it all. But you better, okay. Now, this is the problem because I don't know your names.
No.
You're Raymond, right?
Yes.
Where's that name?
All right, yeah.
That one, okay. So I'm just going to put another check there.
I'm Ricardo.
Ricardo. Okay. And for next time, y'all need to do chapter 2. What's your name?
That'll be for the 22nd.
Yeah, we don't have class Monday. Don't come here. I won't be here. What'd you say, Matthew?
Michael.
Michael, sorry. Okay. You're Matthew.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're Chris.
Yes.
Okay. You're Pink. What's your name?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Eleanor.
Eleanor. All right. Don't forget to come to the orientation tonight at 5. What's your name? Yeah. You're AJ?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You make your box yet?
No, I'm going to right now.
Okay. You are May. Bond. Alisa May. You like to be called May. Okay. Try to remember that. Jordan Abiso. All right. Thank you.